YouTube, what's happening? It is Wednesday, June 5th. There are 15 games to talk about in baseball today. But first, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, because we're going to jump into the record right now. Yesterday, 13-7, kind of a high betting day. It happens. I'm a high volume bettor. 4.28 units back in the bankroll, over 10 units for the week, almost 40 units for the past 30 days. Absolutely on fire right now. Even almost hit the parlay for the money line parlay yesterday. If the Dodgers didn't lose a 1-0 game, we would have had 24 units extra on top of yesterday's profits. Oh, the Dodgers killed me yesterday, I swear. Anyways, we're going to move. We got 15 games to talk about. Let's go ahead and jump to that first one. All right, first up, we got Atlanta and Boston. We got Schwellenbach against Pivetta, 5-4 against a 408. Looking at the betting markets, we are seeing that is a pick'em on the side. No line so far. Over under 9.5. No juice either way on this either. Looking at the data, we see that 55-ish% nerfy, not what we're talking about. Atlanta bats are on fire. 6.7 runs per game and batting 269 in the past 3 games. That's second and seventh in the majors. Only 6 strikeouts, which is 4th. Meanwhile, Boston, middle of the road at runs, it's 4.3. They're batting 230, which is 20th, and they're swinging at everything. They're 27th at 10.3. So the main things we want to look at here on the pitching matchup is going to be, can Atlanta strike out Boston, because Boston's striking out. We don't know from Schwellenbach. He's only pitched 5 innings, but he does have 5 Ks in those 5 innings. So he is about a 1 strikeout inning, but that was against the Nationals. I mean, we don't know much. I need more data points before I can start statistically saying I trust him with my units. I don't trust him right now. So that doesn't tell me anything. So looking at Pivetta, one thing that does stand out is back 6 games ago or 5 games ago, he faced Atlanta and he gave up 7 hits and 5 earned runs and 1 strikeout against Atlanta, this very same team. And most people understand the baseball term when you say when a pitcher sees a batter again, second time the batter has an advantage over the pitcher because they see the pitches. So now Atlanta has more of an advantage. They already lit him up once. Are they going to light him up again? I don't think he'll go that much, but they're going to have an advantage here. So for this one, I'm going to be taking Atlanta on the money line, and I'm also going to be taking the over 9.5 in this one as well, because Pivetta has been shown to get rocked by Atlanta, and we have a newer pitcher in Atlanta who we don't know what he can do. So over 9.5, Atlanta money line, next game. Next up, we got St. Louis and Houston. We have Mikolas with a 5.5 against Blanco at a 2.44. Looking at the betting markets, we see that the Astros are a decently favored team on the home, minus 175, over under 8.5, no juice either way. Looking at the data, we have a 49.4% chance of a nerfy, not what we're talking about. Stats-wise, St. Louis, 4.7 runs a game, which is 13th. They're batting 13th as well for 250, which is tied with Houston at 250. But Houston is getting more runs. They're getting 6 runs a game, which is 5th. So we have an advantage. Houston on the runs. They're tied in the batting averages, and they're about the same in strikeouts, 8-3 to 8. So no real advantages here except for the run category for Houston. Only thing that really stands out for this one is going to be the pitching matchups. St. Louis is sending out Mikolas, which you can see 5.54 ERA, only 50 strike, a 1.32 whip, not good numbers. You can see he's been decent. He was rocked early in the season, 3.63, 1.3. He's going to give about 3 runs a game. That's what he's going to do. You know what you get with him. But when you look at Houston, you go to his game log, you pop it over, you see he got rocked against the Twins last game. He got 4 runs, gave up 3 walks, still got his 6 strikeouts. Before that, 7 innings, won, only 3 innings, nothing. So we got a pitcher coming back off of getting rocked in this last game as well. So for this one, looking at the betting side again, we see that the over-under is 8.5 in this one. I'm going to be taking the over in that because we have a pitcher who's been known to give up at least 3 runs a game, it feels like, and a pitcher coming off getting rocked by the Twins. So I will ride those and take the over 8.5 in this one. Houston will go in a money line parlay piece. I'm not going to run line or anything, mainly because the pitching advantage here. But outside of that, they're not going to anything else. Next game. Up next, we got Cincy and Colorado. We got Ashcraft with a 4.76 against Hudson with a 5.02. Betting markets currently have the Reds as a 135 favorite. 11.5 over under with some juice on the over. That's crazy. Looking at the data, you see 43.4 Nerfy, not what we're talking about. Cincinnati, number one offense in the last 3 games at 7.3 runs a game. Colorado is last in offense at 1.3 runs a game. We have a 6-run differential in offense in the last 3 games. That's a hefty advantage for Cincy there. Batting average. Cincy is, as a team, they are batting 367 in the past 3 games. They're batting 316 in the past week, both good for first in the majors. They're batting 257 in the past 2 weeks, which is good for 6. Colorado is falling off a cliff. They're 179 in the past 3 games, which is 28th. They're striking out also 27th at 10.3. Cincy only 5.7, which is third. So you can see the trend lines. One's going this way and one's going down. So that's not good. Hefty advantage matchups for Cincinnati here. Looking at the pitching side here, we want to see, there we go. Looking at Ashcraft, the stats aren't that good. 4.76 with a 1.45 whip is terrible. And you see the numbers here. He's going to get 3, 5, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, 0. But other than that, he's going to give up 3 to 5 runs. We see why the total is 11.5 right now. Because when you come to Hudson, numbers 4, 3, 2. He's getting progressively better. And the thing about this matchup I see here, Hudson has faced some beast offenses. Dodgers, Philly, San Fran, San Diego, San Fran. These are not bad offenses. These are good offenses he's facing. So he's getting progressively better here. The thing is, I would lean Hudson in this pitching matchup just because statistically he's getting better. But Cincy is just, the data just screams take Cincy because it's 7.3. If the team's batting 367, the whole team's not going to go cold in one game. They just don't do that. And the whole team's not going to catch fire in one game. So I'm taking Cincinnati on the money line for sure in this one at minus 135. 11.5 over under is actually enticing because you have 2 pitchers that tend to give up runs. Even though Colorado's pitcher's getting better, he's going to face the number 1 offense now. So we're going to see how he handles that. This could easily be like a 9-4 game, something crazy like that. So, but 11.5 is one of those numbers you just can't really take. I can't do it in good faith. I'm not trying to waste mine or your units. So we're going to take Cincinnati in the money line for safekeeping. If you want to play the over, feel free. Be a degenerate. I'm not. So just Cincinnati money line and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got San Fran and Arizona. We got Hicks with a 2.7 against Montgomery with a 5.48. Betting markets favor the Diamondbacks slightly at home. 8.5 is the total with no juice either way. Looking at the data, 53.1% Nerfy. Pass on that. San Fran, 4 runs a game for 18th. Arizona, 5.7 for 9th. Advantage Arizona. Also advantage Arizona in the bats at 301 for 3rd best in the majors in the last 3 games. Meanwhile, San Fran is 15th, 245, middle of the road. Strikeouts, advantage San Fran, 7 versus 9.7. Only thing we want to see here is that Arizona striking out 25th place when it comes to strikeouts in the majors is San Fran, a strikeout pitcher. So we go over the pitching matchups. We come over here. Hicks, not really. Only 52 strikeouts in. He's not averaging 1 strikeout an inning. So, and his whip is 1.1. So we're not going to be looking at a strikeout prop. We see in his last few games, he got a little rock last game. Before that, 1-1-2, but he only pitches 5 innings. He does 5. He does his job. He's a 9 to 5 guy. He clocks in. He does his work. He clocks out. He goes home. So nothing stands out there. When it comes to Montgomery's a different story. He got destroyed by the Mets last game. 9 hits, 6 earned, 2, 4, 3, 2. He's going to give up runs. We know this. Looking at the lines here again, 8.5 is a little high for this one because with the offenses being where they are, 18th and 9th in runs, that's 4 and 5.7. That's 9.7 average between the two. The total is 8.5. If it was 7.5, I'd probably take it. 8.5, I'm gonna pass. On the side, we have advantage Arizona on the stats, but again, we have advantage San Fran when it comes to the pitching because Hicks has better numbers overall. So overall, this entire game is going to be a pass. Next game. All right, next up, we got Milwaukee and Philly. We got Ashby with a 9.82 and a 2.1 whip. Ugh. Going up against Nola with a 3.03 and a 1.03 whip. Real numbers. Looking at the betting markets, we see Philly's only a 190 favorite. It feels like it should be higher just for that pitching matchup. 8.5 is the total with some juice on that over. Looking at the data, 43.6 Nerfy. Nah, pass. Looking at the stats, Milwaukee runs in the last three is 2.7 for 22nd. Philly at 3 for 21st. No advantage, but both teams are struggling to score runs. Both teams are definitely struggling to even get on base. 221 for Milwaukee and 212 for Philly. 24th and 26th. Ain't going to get it done. And on strikeouts, they're both tied at 7.3, which is 11th in the major. So they're not striking out. They can't get on base and they can't score runs. So that doesn't bode well for an over that has a favorite on it. However, looking at the pitching matchups, we see that somebody by the name of Ashby is pitching today, who has a 9.2 ERA and a 2.1 WHIP. He has done one game this year. He had six hits, gave up 4 runs, 2 walks, 2 Ks. Not good for your first game of the year. Nola's going out there. Nola, pretty decent numbers. 303, which is 21st, 103 whip. You're going to get 222. This is what you're going to get outside of this amazing game against the Mets where you went 9 complete game shutout over here. So we know what we're going to get with Nola. These numbers are not indicative of an over. It could happen. Ashby could give up like 15 runs. Who knows? I'm going to pass on the over-under in this one. Phillies clearly have the pitching advantage. Statistically, they're the same. There's nothing that stands out here. So we're going strictly on pitching. We're going to put Philly in a money line parlay spot. That's all we're going to do with this one. There's no strikeout props. There's nothing else in this one. Philly money line, next game. All right, next up, we get the Mets and the Nationals. We got Severino with a 3.5 against Corbin with a 5.8. Looking at the betting side, we see the Mets are a slight favor on the money line. Over under 9.5 with some juice on the under. Data time, 52% Nerfy, not what we're talking about. Both teams are scoring runs, 6 and 5. That's 5th and 11th for both in the majors, so they're getting dudes across the plate. Mets 5th in batting average at 295 as a team in the last 3. Washington 245 in the last 3 for 15th, so middle of the pack. Mets striking out 8 times. Washington 6.3, slight advantage Washington. Looking at the pitching matchups, we see Severino. He's up and down. He's a roller coaster. Last game against Arizona got rocked. 6 hits, 4 earned runs. Before that, 7 innings, 1 earned run, only 2 hits. Before that, 6 hits, 5 earned runs. Dude's going to up and down. We don't know what we're going to get with him. So 50-50 shot, he blows up. 50-50 shot, he shuts you down. What you going to do? Coming over to Patrick Corbin, one of my favorite don't bet money line when this guy's pitching pitchers. We see that he's been fairly outside of the Minnesota game where he had 9 hits at 8 earned runs. He's been fairly consistent to be about 2 to 3 runs. Outside of that, we know in the past couple of years, Corbin can blow up and give up a whole bunch of runs. He's up there with Lance Lynn and there's a couple others. He just, when I see Manoah, there we go. That's my 3 guys right there. If I see them pitching, I look at the over. I don't take their money line. So in this one, with these 2 pitching, with both offenses being again top 5 and 11, 6 and 5 runs a game, they're both scoring. Both teams are batting decently. Mets batting even better. Pitching matchup, not much of an advantage, I don't think, when it comes to looking at that, because we see 3.52 and 8.5, 8.3. It looks like New York has a pitching advantage, but he just got a game where he just got rocked. So we really don't know what we're looking at here. So I am going to be taking the over 9.5 in this one for the plus 100. We're going to leave the side alone. We're not going to touch that, just the over, and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got Kansas City and Cleveland. We got Singer with a 2.63 and Sandlin from the bullpen with a 2.77. Looking at the betting, we see Guardians, even with the bullpen game, they're favored 135. Over under 8.5 with some juice on that over. Looking at the data, 54.7% Nerfy, pass. Kansas City, only 4 runs a game. Cleveland, 4.3. Not really much of an advantage either way. They're both middle of the pack. Kansas City, 255 average as a team in the last 3, which is 9th. Cleveland struggling to hit. 194 as a team. That's only 27th in the last 3 games. 7.7 strikeouts for KC, 7.3 for Cleveland. No real advantage there. We look at the pitching side now. Singer's going out there for KC. We know what we get with Singer. 1-1. Outside this one game against Seattle where he got rocked a little bit. 1-1. He's only going to do his 5 innings. Again, he's a 9-to-5 guy. He shows up, he punches in, he does his job, he goes home. That's what he does. Outside of that, you're not going to get much. But with that, you know what to expect. You're not going to... This was shocking probably to see outside of that. So Sandlin, we know, is a bullpen guy. He pitches 1 inning, 0.1, 1.2, 0.2, 0.1. It's a bullpen game for Cleveland. It happens. So, but he's not a bad pitcher. He's got good stat, 0.77 whip, 2.77. That's not bad. So Only problem is who's going to come in after one inning after him. We don't know anything. So Cleveland being favored with a bullpen game is kind of shocking to me. Normally you see those as the other way around. So, and especially with Cleveland only batting 194 in the past 3 games or 27th, and we got Singer, who we know what we're going to get with him. I am going to be taking Kansas City. I'm doing it. Every time I take Kansas City for the last week, they've lost. It's wild. But before that, they won every game. So who knows? So for this one, I am going to be coming back over to the side over here. Kansas City, I'm getting plus money and a bullpen game against a team that's probably going to use like 5 or 6 pitchers, I'm guessing. And they're against Cleveland, who is struggling to hit the ball. I'm going to take KC money line at plus 110. We're not going to touch anything else in this game, and we're going to move on to the next game. Next up, we got the Dodgers and the Pirates. We got Paxton with a 3-2 against Paul Skeens with a 2-4. Betting markets have the Pirates favor slightly at home. 8.5 should total with some juice on that under. Looking at the data, 50% on the dot Nerfy. Pass all day. Dodgers, surprisingly, can't get any runs. Happens when you lose a game 1-0 yesterday, right? They're 2.7 runs a game in the last 3, which is 22nd. Pittsburgh is 4.3 for 14th. Batting average, Dodgers 253 for 11th. Pittsburgh 257 for 8th. Advantage Pittsburgh, both of those. Strikeouts, 6.7 for Dodgers for 8th. They're not striking out much. That might change today, though. And 10.3 for Pittsburgh for 27th. We are going to look at the pitching matchups. Paxton is going out there. You can see it's weird what's going on. He normally pitches 6 innings, but then he got rocked a good bit for 4.2. Then he only pitched 3 innings. I don't know if he got hurt or they're just produced. I don't know what they're doing to him. So it's kind of weird what's happening here. Now, we look at Skeens. We know what's happening. He's getting his 6 innings. That's what they're keeping him at, nothing more. And he's getting a lot of strikeouts. 7, 11, 3, 9. 3 was wild. But outside of that, we're going to be looking at strikeout props for Skeens just to see what the number is. I know the Dodgers are currently only getting 6.7, and they're just all around. They're generally not a strikeout team. They're always in the top 10, it feels like, but it's Skeens. I'm going to look at his strikeout prop and see what he does. I'm also going to look at Paxton's strikeout props, because if it's something stupid low like 3.5, yeah, I'll take it. But we don't know what's going on here, and the fact Pittsburgh swinging and everything, we'll see. But if it's anything higher, we're going to pass on that. So for the side in this one, looking back at the numbers, based on Pittsburgh having the advantage, and I think Pittsburgh having a clear advantage with a pitching matchup with Skeens, I'm taking Pittsburgh minus 120 at home on the money line. We're going to leave the total alone. So we got Pittsburgh money line, look at some K props, and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Tampa Bay and Miami. We got Eflin with a 4-1 against Garrett with a 4-5. Betting market, slight favorites for the Tampa Bay Rays on the road. 7.5 is total with some juice on the under. Looking at the data, 58.2% Nerfy, not what we're talking about. Tampa Bay, 5th in runs in the past 3 games at 6 runs a game. Miami, only 1.7 runs. Terrible, 29th. They are batting 252, though, for 12th, which is weird. They're getting people on base. They just can't get them home, which, that ain't good. Tampa Bay, 2nd in batting average at 310 in the past 3 games. So Tampa Bay's bats are on fire compared to what they were 2 weeks ago. You can see 25th and 21st in runs and batting averages. 19th in strikeouts for Tampa Bay, 8.3. Miami, dead last, 11.7. They're swinging everything and missing. So let's look at the pitching matchup, see what we got here. Tampa Bay's throwing out Eflin. You can see what he gets here. He's not a strikeout dude. We see this, so we're not looking at a strikeout prop. Even though Miami is dead last, we're not doing it because he's not going to strike him out. So, and he burned to give up runs. It could happen. So, Garrett, on the other hand, he had 2 terrible games, but then had a 4-hit complete game, and then 6-1. 2 games are great behind that. So we don't know what we're getting with him. The line here, looking back at the line, Tampa Bay is on fire offensively while Miami is struggling. The pitching matchups, in my opinion, are pretty even. Nothing really stands out between these 2 pitchers here. And the line here pretty much says that too. So I'm going to be taking Tampa Bay on the road as a favorite. Take that in the money line. Over under 7.5. I'm going to take the over in this one, mainly because Tampa Bay bats are The bats are on fire. We see that they're 5th in scoring runs. They're 2nd in batting average. Miami being 12th is the main reason I'm taking this. When you are able to score runs, able to hit the ball and get on base, the runs will come eventually. There's no way this 1.7 is going to stick around. I think they're able to get some runs off of Eflin. So we're going to take the over 7.5. Tampa Bay money line, move on to the next game. Next up, we got the Twins and the Yankees. We got Paddock with a 4.5 against Rodon with a 3.09. Betting markets, heavy favorites for Yankees at home, over under 8.5, no juice either way. Looking at the data, 44.8 Nerfy, nope, pass. Stats, heavy advantage on the Yankees, 6.3 runs for 4th best, 277 for 6 on batting average. Meanwhile, Minnesota, 26 in runs, 2.3, dead last in batting. As a team, Minnesota is swinging 148 as a, it is just terrible. I don't want to finish saying that sentence. This is awful. Strikeouts 8.3 for both. They're tied at 19th. Pitching matchups. Paddock is, you can see here, the main thing that we need to look at. Oh, the numbers are not bad. He gives up a little bit here, 4.57. Except 4 games ago, he faced the Yankees, gave up 12 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 strikeouts. Terrible game. So again, the batter has an advantage the second time they face a pitcher. So Yankees should have an advantage even more so than this one. Do I think they give up 12 hits again? No, I don't think that happens, but I think they still get to him a good bit, enough to get him pulled fairly. By the 5th, he'll be gone. So Rodon's going out there for them. You know what he gets with him. He's 6 innings and out. That's what he does. That's his job. Is he probably going to give up a couple runs? Probably. Maybe so. Looking at the stats here, 8.5. I'm not messing with that. We don't know what we're going to get here. Yankees could get that by themselves. Good. It could end up 6-1 like it was in the previous game for when Paddock pitched. You can see it was 5-1. So we don't know what we're going to get. So in this one, we're going to leave the total alone. We are taking Yankees money line in the parlay, and we're going to even take Yankees -1.5 on that run line, because I think they get to the guy early, and I think they get some more runs, and I think they can easily win by at least 2 or more runs. Next game. Next up, we got Baltimore and Toronto. We got Suarez with a 1.57 and Berrios with a 2.79. Betting markets, slight favor for the Blue Jays at home. 8.5 is your total with some juice on the under. Data time. Favorite stat for this game is going to be the Nerfy, like it was the last 2 games it hits. Baltimore's hitting the Nerfy when they're the away team 96.15% of their games this year. Toronto's hitting the Nerfy 86.2% of the times when they're at home this year. That gives you an 82.89% advantage, a chance of a Nerfy just from the 2 teams playing each other. Then you throw in the stats that Toronto hasn't hit a hasn't scored a run in the first inning in over a month. I showed that on yesterday's video. Crazy. And the fact that they're only getting 2.7 runs a game, which is 22nd. They're batting 238 for 18th. And they are number 1 in strikeouts, though. They're doing better there. However, Baltimore is getting 6.7 runs a game, but for some reason, they just don't want to score in the first inning. They'll pop off for 5 runs in the second inning, but not the first. They never do. And they're batting 301 for third. Something about getting the feel for that first inning, they just don't do it. I don't know why. 6 strikeouts for 4, so neither team is striking out. Looking at the pitching, Baltimore sending out Suarez. You can see he is all over the place. Bullpen guy, but then 4 or 5 innings. We don't know what's happening here, so we don't know exactly what we're getting with him. So Berrios, outside of the game against Philly 5 games ago where he got rocked, he's been pretty solid. 1, 2, 3, 2, not bad. 7, 6 innings. So we know what we're getting here with the weirdness of the line being favored Toronto in this one, and the fact that Suarez is just all over the place. We don't know how many innings he's actually going to pitch. I'm going to leave the side alone. Even though the numbers scream take Baltimore on the numbers, we're not going to touch that. The only thing we're going to play Old Faithful. We're going to play the Nerfy. We always do in this game. Anytime Baltimore's on the road, it's almost an automatic Nerfy for me until they prove me otherwise. It's going to lose eventually. I know this. But until then, I'm going to take it every single game. Nerfy in this game. Move on to the next. Our next up, Chicago versus Chicago. The Feds up against Italian. We got 3-1 against 2-8. Betting side, we have 180 for the Cubs. Not 300 like it was yesterday. Over under 8.5 with some juice on the over. Looking at the data, 61.3 Nerfy. Pass. Runs a game, 2.4 to 5.3, advantage of the Cubs. 218 to 232, it's advantage Cubs. Both of these are very slight advantages. And 9.7 to 8 on strikeouts, advantage Cubs there as well. Only problem is Talion is not a strikeout pitcher, so we're not going to look at his K prop because it's just, he doesn't strike out dudes. 4-3, 4-2. That's not good enough when you're against anybody. So not looking at a prop there. The thing I see here that makes me think a little bit is he's giving up 3-3, 3-2. We know what we're going to get with him. Bet on the other hand, he had a rough game against Milwaukee, yes, but before that, nothing, and a rough game against Toronto. So he's either going to be really good or have a rough game. But we know Italian what we're going to get. He's going to give up some runs against anybody. So this one is weird. And the line was 300 yesterday. Now it's 180 today. Why? I want to know why. The stats are not screaming take the Cubs here. They slightly favorite, yes. And we saw what happened yesterday. White Sox jumped out to a 5-6-0 run. Then they had the delay, and all of a sudden Cubs stormed back and they won by 1. It happens. That's what this game should be. It's a 1-run game. I don't see much of a difference in this one. So I'm going to pass on a side here. I just can't put 180 Cubs in anything. Not looking at these numbers in this pitching matchup, I would even be inclined to say the White Sox break their 12-game losing streak today because they almost had it yesterday. If Bay comes out and pitches great, I can clearly see the White Sox beating the Cubs, ending their 12-game losing streak. So we're going to leave everything in this game alone and just move on to the next game. Next up, we got Detroit and Texas. We got Meta with a 5-8 against Urena with a 3-5. Betting markets slightly favor the Rangers at home. 9.5 to total with some juice on the under. Data time, 49.5% on the Nerfy as a pass. 4.3 to 2.7 advantage Detroit on the runs, but the batting averages are basically the same. They're off by 0.002, so no advantage there. And they're both striking out 8.3 to 8, not an advantage there. So Detroit has a slight advantage in scoring runs. Texas seems to be struggling a little bit. Looking at the pitching matchups, we see Maeda is 6.25 at a 141. He got rocked in his last game, had a great game, got rocked again, had a great game. So we don't know what we're getting with them. According to this trend, he should have a great game today, right? We don't know. Looking at Arena, we see same, not the same. He's not up and down like a roller coaster. He's more steady, but we know he's going to give up something 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. He's not going to give up nothing. He's not going to give up 6. He's going to give a couple. That's what he does. This one, with the way that the data is sitting here saying that nothing really stands out in this one, nothing screaming take either side. Detroit has a slight advantage in the runs, and then the way the line is sitting, I don't trust either way. So we're going to pass on the side in this one. Total wise, we have two offenses that are kind of struggling to hit the ball with the batting averages. One can't even score runs, and we have two pitching matches. We don't know what's going on. We're going to pass on everything in this game and move on to the next one. Next up, we got the Padres and the Angels. We got C's with a 3-4-2 up against Soriano with a 3-8-6. Betting markets have the Padres as a slight favorite on the road. 7.5 total with some juice on the under. Data 41.8 Nerfy pass. Both teams struggling with the bats. 2 runs a game versus 2.3. That's 28th and 26th. Batting wise, 230 and 157. That's 20th and 29th. Both are terrible with the bats right now. They aren't striking out though. 6.3 for San Diego, 5.0 for LA, 6 and second. It's hard to say. Looking at the pitching side, sees we know what we're going to get. He's going to give up runs. That's what he does. He's going to get 3, 4, 5, 3. He had a great game against the Cubs, but this was back when the Cubs couldn't, they were dead last batting like 150. So let's put that in perspective. And then besides that, just he does strike dudes out, but we saw LA isn't strike out much, so we don't want to look at a strikeout prop with him. So he's prone to give up runs. Soriano, same story. Recently, he's gotten rocked the last couple games. I don't know what's going on with him. He rocked, decent, rocked. So we don't know what got here either. Neither one strikes out, so we're not looking at strikeout props with either pitcher. Looking back at the odds, I don't trust Padres 150. Nothing in this data tells me to take the Padres as a money line favorite. The pitching doesn't, the data doesn't. If anything, LA, no, neither, nothing. This whole game is just terrible. So we're going to pass on everything. Move on to the next game. Last game, we got Seattle and Oakland. We got Gilbert with a 3-2-9 against Estes with a 6-1. Betting size have the Mariners 155 favorites. 7.5 is total. No juice either way. Data says almost 70% nerfing in this one. 69.3, not good enough. Not especially when you got offenses here that are 5th and 11th in scoring. Not going to do it. We have 6 runs a game for Seattle, 5 runs a game for Oakland. They're both batting pretty well. 245 for Seattle, which is middle of the road. 255 for Oakland, which is 9th. So advantage Oakland in batting, advantage Seattle in runs. 6.7 strikeouts versus 9.3. Oakland's going to strike out. If they're ever in like the teens, they're doing great. So 9.3 strikeouts. Looking at the pitching matchups, we see Logan isn't really that much of a strikeout pitcher. So we're not looking at that, especially against Oakland right now. But he gives up some runs. He got rocked against Minnesota. Gave up a few runs here, had a good game against Nationals, and then got kind of rocked again. Estes, on the other hand, got completely rocked hardcore against Houston. Did great against Seattle in 5 innings a few games ago, but we know the batters have an advantage the second time they face them, so we'll see what happens tonight. Tampa Bay did great there too, so the main thing I'm looking at here is the over-under of 7.5. Both pitchers have been prone to get rocked multiple times in the last few games. Both teams are currently 5th and 11th in runs at 6 and 5, so they can score runs. They missed the over yesterday by half a run. They left so many people on base in that game. That was wild to watch. Overall, I'm going to take the over in this one of 7.5. I'm not taking a side. Neither side screams take it. Yes, the pitching matchup is looks like it's in favor of Gilbert just from the straight innings, ERA and whip and everything, but we see anything could happen in this one. So I'm going to be taking the over in this one, leave the sides alone, and that's it. That's it. All 15 games broken down, stats given, data discussed. If you like it, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, and we will see you tomorrow.